Hello and welcome to my channel, AB Make It Artwork, where we do what we do to make that artwork for you. And if you're new to my channel, maybe hit that subscribe button, join the AB Creative Crew. We do sketchy art things. Today's video is going to be a life rant. It's about mindfulness, anxiety, and my experience with therapy. I'm going to get it out of the way first that I've gone to therapy since the age of 11. So from the age of 10 to the age of 19, 20, I had gone to therapy. And it started off with group therapy for the family. Then it was single sessions. And then for a few years, from 12 to maybe 17, I went to an all-girls group therapy, but also did single sessions. But from 17 to 19, 20, I did single sessions. And my last therapist largely advocated and mostly talked about being mindful and mindfulness. And to me, being mindful is the act of awareness, of recognizing when you have a problem or you have something going on. And the act of mindfulness is taking that awareness to accept, solve, and move on from your problem. So for instance, I'm going to use like a physical example. Say you have a muscle ache and you're like, oh, my arms are really sore. And you think about, well, why are my muscles sore? What caused my muscles to ache? And then you think, oh, hey, I went to the gym recently. I upped my weights and I forgot to stretch. That's probably why my muscles are sore. Or maybe add on, oh, I slept in a really funny position, or I have a tendency to slouch. This is probably why my muscles hurt. My muscles. So you think, okay, I need to stretch. I need to move around, but do gentle movements. So you think, okay, I'm going to find a video and I'm going to stretch. I'm going to do some lighter fitness that involves movement, but not a lot of movement or heavy weights. And I'm just going to take a rest day. Or for some people, they have to take a very mild, pain reliever. Words. And it's like, those are all troubleshoots. Like, you've brought your solutions, and it's like, okay, we're doing our solutions now, and we're moving on from the problem because now we don't have sore muscles. Like, we're aware of what caused the problem. We've done the measures to fix the problem. We'll hopefully do the preventative measures to stop the problem from happening. And that's active mindfulness. And some things from my last therapist that I kind of learned to do in order to be more mindful is that I do micro check-ins. So if I ever have a free moment and I realize that something's not quite right, I take a moment to self-evaluate and assess what's going on. I'm feeling suddenly very irritable. I must be agitated from stress. What's stressing me? Oh, this and this and this, and that kind of stuff. That's a micro check-in. I will also meditate, it's like a prolonged micro check-in in which I give myself a longer period of time to just be silent, to be quiet, and just take note of different things going on with me. When I meditate, I don't focus on what's the list of possible problems. I focus on where are certain parts of me that feel kind of weird. I've been kind of feeling this way. Now let's just calm down. I do yoga, which is like meditation but with stretching, and that helps to alleviate certain muscle pain. So it's when you're stretching in yoga, you have that quiet moment to just be in your element, but also actively fix the areas that you're oh, My hip feels weird when I do downward facing dog. Am I putting too much pressure into my feet and not enough push into my hands? Or just stuff like that. I journal. So that's me making a physical note that, hey, I haven't been feeling very good. And I can use that as a reminder to say, okay, this is when I started to assess that there was a problem. And this is when I noticed that I was getting more irritable with stuff for whatever reason. Like, I think I hated one page because of the pink marker or pink pen I was using. I was like, that's a really stupid thing to just hate a page because it's in pink. So that probably was when I was starting to first get anxious. But I also communicate, and communication is often key, whether it be with a professional therapist, with a trusted loved one, or just like a good friend. Communication is always good to even just let others know what's going on with you. Communication is key. So now that we've got mindfulness kind of out of the way, and just little ways that I'm mindful, that maybe you can be mindful in your situation, I do want to kind of give a warning, because I am going to be talking about anxiety and anxiety disorder to an extent, as well as my symptoms. And this is going to be somewhat of a trigger warning. And trigger isn't just something you just throw out like a 10-year-old because you don't believe in someone else's argument. A trigger in the medical sense is it's an instance that causes you to go back into a traumatic flashback, which can cause panic attacks, anxiety attacks, or just, it's something that causes you to relive trauma. And for some people, hearing about how people have panic attacks and their symptom progression can do that. That's why I'm doing this warning. So if you don't already know, anxiety is that sense of apprehension. It's the fight or flight sense that we get in certain situations, sometimes associated with panic, but panic's more like anxiety knocked up on speed because of other people's hysteria. Like, this is active danger. But anxiety is just that, like, sense of apprehension. Now, the medical definition of anxiety disorder is a chronic condition characterized by an excessive and persistent sense of apprehension that usually results in symptoms like sweating, heart palpitations, and anxiety attacks. And for me, I've had some early signs since I was a little kid that I probably had a small anxiety disorder. For instance, when I was like 5, I couldn't handle the idea of people being upset with me. And I wasn't abused. Like, I wasn't physically abused or emotionally abused as a kid. I would pretty much go into hysterics over the idea of someone being upset at me. And I would throw all my toys in front of my door, barricade my door, hide in my closet, and just start freaking out, crying, sobbing, freaking out. And my mom didn't know what to do with me if I got like that. And so it's like, I can't get in there. It's annoying, but I gotta wait until she calms down and stops freaking out. And like, that's not technically normal for a kid to do. But that's what I would do, and that's like the earliest sign that I probably had an anxiety disorder, looking back on it. With the last therapist, well, the last two, we tied together that my anxiety attacks and the intensity of my anxiety is tied with some PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in regards to my second foster home, which is a story in and of itself that'll be coming relatively soon after I've calmed down for a bit. And my anxiety attacks would be triggered by things in regards to my PTSD and stress. And that's what we realized was causing me to have a higher frequency of panic attacks, and what causes them to sometimes escalate to their worst form. Now, I'm going to start with the small symptoms. Like, small symptoms for me, if I'm going to have a panic attack, like, because everyone's different, this is my life experience. For me, small things that I'll start to notice is that I'll get really easily irritable. And it's like, I'm not a really irritated person. I'm not super snippy. I'm, like, really happy, really cuddly, super friendly. And smallest thing that I'll notice is that I suddenly get really irritated or agitated by the dumbest things. Example, I got really mad about that one page in my journal with the pink pen, which makes no sense. And it's like, okay, why was I so mad about a pink pen that I refused to write with it at all for the rest of that day? Like, that's something kind of excessive irritability. Seems kind of silly. Then I will start being picky. I'll be particular. I'll want things in a certain order. I'll want to organize things that I really shouldn't. Like, sometimes if I was with my mom and I got really anxious and we happened to be at Walmart, I'd be freaking reorganizing their Pokemon card stock and, like, fixing the boxes so they're all in a row, all together with the same type of box. Kind of OCD stuff. Being nitpicky, OCD. After that point, I'll start casually shutting down. And what I mean by casually shutting down is that things I normally take an interest in, I suddenly want nothing to do with. I get so disinterested, I get so bored, and I become, like, super lethargic. For instance, normally I don't mind using YouTube. I like watching YouTube a lot for my content. But suddenly I was like, hate everything about YouTube. I'm so bored with this stuff. It's all the same junk. Nothing's new. Nothing's entertaining. Sorry for the mic wobble. And that then extended to, I don't want to draw right now. And then I don't want to do this yoga thing that I was doing, to I don't want to do anything, but I can't stop doing everything. I still have to do things. Like, I can't just sit in bed all day and be a coma vegetable burrito. I can't be a stupid potato. I can't. So I'll still do things, but it's with much reluctance that I'll do them. Or I'll put excessive amounts of, like, effort into doing the few things that I will do. Then, like, past that point, I'll start becoming a bit more antisocial. Like, I won't want to hang out with people. I won't want to be in big groups. I won't want to deal with, like, communicating with people. Because, like, it's too much effort. It's too much effort by that point. And by that point, I'll start to zone out. I'll start spacing out if I am forced to be in a social environment. So I'll start doing the 1,000-yard stare. And I'll, like, if I notice that I'm doing that, I'll try to, like, distance myself to calm myself down. But if I'm forced to engage in the situation even more, I'll start to, like, disassociate. And my conscious self will be, like, on the back burner. And I'll just kind of be a zombie at that point. By that point, like, that's pretty far into the progression of my panic attack. Like, that's, like, the step right before I'm in the throes of a panic attack. And so I'll start hyperventilating. I'll freak out. Sometimes I'll want to be in a dark, tiny place. Sometimes I'll want just big, bright bubble. But it's like, that's me in the panic attack, hyperventilating, heart palpitations, crying, freaking out. Like, maybe some shaking too. And the worst instance of which I've had a panic attack left me pretty much in seizures on the floor for half an hour. I was stuck, a hyperventilating, crying ball that couldn't move on the floor for half an hour. I was in and out of blacking out. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I could barely move. Like, I knew there was, like, a sketchbook nearby that I could try to write help me, because I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was stuck 30 minutes on the floor, having convulsions, couldn't talk, couldn't de-escalate until it just got so hard to breathe that like my body did start kind of fake chilling to the point like, okay, we gotta stop this. And that's like the worst that it's ever been. And we don't have like a lot more time left. I know this is kind of like a serious talk about being mindful, being aware of like what like sets you off and stuff. But just if you need to talk to someone, talk with someone. Talk with me. Talk with like a therapist. But I hope that wherever you are, you're having a very mindful day and that you do what you do to make that artwork for you. So much love here from AB. Bye.